Captain Elena Martinez slouched in her thoroughly uncomfortable chair aboard the Earth diplomatic vessel Humble Origins, fighting to keep a straight face as the Zixtarian ambassador droned on about the latest advancements in their supposedly superior propulsion technology. The ship's name itself was an inside joke that the aliens never seemed to get, much like how they never noticed that the ship's deliberately crude exterior housed some of humanity's most sophisticated technology. "And you see, Captain Martinez," Ambassador Krikstal gestured with his upper appendages, mandibles clicking in what humans had learned was their expression of condescension, "our latest quantum drive modifications allow us to achieve 0.8 light speed without any of those primitive fusion reactors your species relies on." Elena nodded, adopting the wide-eyed, amazed expression that had become second nature after years of these diplomatic meetings. "Fascinating, Ambassador. We can only dream of such achievements." She paused to take a sip from her standard-issue metal cup, hiding her smirk as she recalled the fact that her ship's actual drive system had broken the light-speed barrier 3 decades ago. The Humble Origins was a masterpiece of deception. Its exterior was deliberately designed to look like it was cobbled together from spare parts, a trait that the Zixtarians and other alien species found both endearing and pitiable. They never questioned why the supposedly primitive hull could somehow withstand the same deep space conditions as their advanced materials. The humans had gotten very good at explaining things away with, "We just over-engineer everything," or "We compensate with extra shielding." "Tell me, Captain," Krikstal continued, settling into what Eleanor recognized as his lecture pose, "have your scientists made any progress with basic gravitational field manipulation? I know it must be frustrating, being limited to mechanical artificial gravity systems." Elena thought about the quantum gravity drive humming silently beneath her feet, the one that could generate targeted gravitational fields powerful enough to tear a small moon apart. "Oh, you know how it is, Ambassador. We're still working on understanding the basic principles. But we're hopeful. Just last month, we managed to create a small anti-gravity field that lasted almost 3 seconds. The ambassador's clicking grew more pronounced. He was practically chortling now. 3 seconds? How quaint. But don't worry, Captain. Give your species another century or 2, and I'm sure you'll figure it out. After all, the Zixtarian Confederacy is always happy to provide guidance to emerging civilizations." The ship's AI pinged her neural implant, another piece of technology the aliens thought humans were decades away from developing. "Captain, detecting unusual energy signatures from the ambassador's personal device. He appears to be scanning our bridge systems." Elena maintained her pleasant smile while mentally commanding the ship's systems to feed the ambassador's scanner the usual fake readings. Inefficient power distribution, primitive computer systems, and enough radiation leakage to make any alien engineer wince with sympathy. The Zixtarians had been trying to secretly analyze human technology for years, convinced they must be missing something about how such a primitive species had survived this long. "We're so grateful for your patience with us, Ambassador," Elena said, standing to stretch in a deliberately awkward manner. "I know it must be frustrating, dealing with a species that still uses physical buttons and switches." She gestured to the bridge's control panels, their seemingly crude interfaces hiding quantum-linked controls that could respond to thought faster than any physical button. Krikstal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, their version of a patronizing smile. "Not at all, Captain. We find your species' determination quite admirable. Why, just yesterday I was telling the Galactic Council how impressed I was that humans managed to achieve spaceflight with such limited understanding of basic physics." Eleanor's first officer, Commander Chen, chose that moment to enter the bridge, purposefully tripping over his own feet before catching himself. "Oops, still getting used to this artificial gravity, sir. I mean, ma'am." "Captain." He gave the ambassador a sheepish grin while discreetly transmitting data to Eleanor, showing that they'd successfully mapped every weakness in the Zixtarian defense systems during this diplomatic meeting. "Careful there, Commander," Eleanor said, playing along. "We wouldn't want the ambassador to think we're not ready for these high-level diplomatic exchanges." As Krixtal launched into another condescending lecture about the proper way to maintain one's balance in space, Elena allowed herself a tiny, secret smile. Sometimes she wondered how long humans would need to keep up this charade. But then she remembered the last species that had revealed their true technological capabilities too soon to the Galactic Council. They'd been immediately labeled a threat and subjected to preventative containment. No, better to play the fool for now. After all, humans had gotten very, very good at it. The Galactic Council chamber was just as pretentious as Elena expected, all sweeping crystalline arches and floating platforms that screamed, "Look how advanced we are," to anyone who entered. She sat at the lowest tier, along with representatives from other developing species, while the Zixtarians and their allies lounged in their elevated positions. "And now," droned Council Leader Vexthor, their bioluminescent spots pulsing with self-importance, "we move to the matter of technological trading restrictions with pre-FTL civilizations." Elena's neural implant buzzed urgently. A priority message from New Eden Colony flashed across her vision. Pirates attacking. Heavily armed. Council-registered raiders. Claiming salvage rights on primitive settlement. Her blood boiled, but she kept her expression carefully neutral as she raised her hand like a schoolchild. Exactly how the Council expected lesser species to request permission to speak. "Yes, yes, human representative." Vexthor sighed dramatically. "I hope this interruption is warranted." "So sorry to disturb the Council's important deliberations," Elena said, layering her voice with just the right amount of uncertainty and deference. "But I've just received word that the human colony on New Eden is under attack by pirates. They're claiming salvage rights, but there are over 10,000 civilians." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Krixtal's mandibles clicked rapidly in amusement. "Salvage rights? Oh, how perfectly legitimate. You see, Captain Martinez, according to Galactic Law Section 47B, settlements without adequate defensive capabilities are considered derelict by default." "But our people are still living there," Elena protested, playing up her desperation. "Surely the Council can't allow—" "The Council suggests," interrupted Vexthor, "that humanity should have invested in proper defensive technology instead of those charming but obsolete orbital satellites. Perhaps this will be a valuable learning experience for your species." Elena stood slowly, her chair scraping against the floor in the most undignified way possible. "So, just to be completely clear," she said, letting a hint of steel enter her voice, "the Council is officially refusing to assist a member species under attack." "Not at all." Krixtal spread his upper appendages magnanimously. "We would be happy to dispatch a protection fleet, for the usual technological exchange rate, of course. I believe the standard fee is unrestricted access to all your colony's resources for the next 50 cycles." More laughter echoed through the chamber. Elena caught sight of the pirate leader's credentials scrolling across her implant display. Registered out of a Zixtarian port. Well, wasn't that interesting? "I see," Elena said, gathering her outdated paper notebooks and mechanical pencils, props that had earned her countless patronizing looks over the years. "Then I suppose I should go break the news to my superiors that we're on our own. Though I do have one small question before I leave." "Make it quick, human representative." Vexthor waved a dismissive tentacle. "We have actual important matters to discuss." Elena paused at the chamber door, dropping her carefully maintained facade for just a moment as she turned back to the Council. "I was just wondering, does anyone here know what happened to the last group of pirates who tried to raid a human settlement?" "Obviously they succeeded, given your species' limited defensive capabilities," scoffed a Drachnid representative from one of the upper tiers. "Funny thing about that." Elena's smile turned predatory. "There's no record of them succeeding. In fact, there's no record of them at all anymore. Almost like they just disappeared." She shrugged, slipping back into her harmless demeanor. but that's probably just because of our primitive record-keeping systems. Good day, Council members. I'm sure we'll all have much to discuss very soon. The chamber doors closed behind her, cutting off the confused murmurs of the Council. Elena's stride lengthened as she headed for the teleport pad, her posture straightening from its usual apologetic slouch. "Lieutenant," she subvocalized to her neural implant, "send word to New Eden. Tell them to maintain minimal defense appearances for exactly 7 more minutes. And then, well, then they can stop pretending." "Aye, Captain." Her officer's voice held the same anticipation she felt. "Shall I prepare the humble origins for departure? We're still showing all the usual energy readings of a primitive vessel." Elena's smile grew wider. "Oh, yes. Let's keep up appearances for just a little longer. Wouldn't want to spoil the surprise." She stepped onto the teleport pad, another piece of technology humans had supposedly not yet mastered. Though you might want to warm up the actual weapons systems. You know, the ones that don't officially exist. "Already done, Captain. The quantum arsenal is ready, and our dimensional shields are at full capacity. Still running the hollow projection of those cute little metal plates the Council thinks we use for protection." "Perfect." Elena took one last look at the Council chamber behind her. "You know, I almost feel bad about this. The pirates are about to learn they've made a terrible mistake, and the Council is about to learn why humans have won every war they've ever fought." "Should I prepare your battle speech, Captain?" "No need, Lieutenant. I think a simple surprise will suffice." The teleporter hummed to life, its supposed primitive nature belied by the complete lack of sound or flash that supposedly more advanced systems produced. "Oh, and send a message to Admiral Chen. Tell her Operation Trojan Horse is finally a go." As Elena's form dissolved into quantum particles, her last thought was that the expressions on the Council members' faces would be absolutely priceless when they realized just how thoroughly they'd been played. The game was over. It was time for humanity to stop playing the fool. The pirate fleet hung over New Eden like vultures, their supposedly superior ships arranged in an attack formation that any first-year human cadet could have defeated. Elena watched through the humble Origins quantum viewers as they bombarded the colony's primitive shields with enough firepower to level a small continent. "Captain," her tactical officer's voice carried a note of barely suppressed glee, "the pirates are demanding the colony's surrender. Their leader, one Captain Zuxkar, is broadcasting his terms." "Put him on," Elena said, finally allowing herself to sit properly in her command chair. No more slouching, no more pretending. A hologram materialized, showing a scarred Zixtarian pirate wearing enough decorated armor to outfit a small army. "Attention, primitive human settlement. Your defenses are nothing against our superior technology. Surrender now and—" "Actually," Elena interrupted, causing the pirate captain to sputter in shock at her lack of proper fearful deference. "I was thinking we could discuss your ship's registration. Specifically how you're operating out of a Zixtarian port under Council authorization." She examined her nails casually. Interesting coincidence, that. "You dare!" Zuxkar started, but Elena was done playing nice. "Lieutenant, drop the hollow shroud. All of them." The humble Origins shimmered, its appearance of cobbled-together metal plates dissolving to reveal sleek black quantum steel armor. Around the ship, space itself seemed to ripple as dozens of human vessels phased into normal space from their dimensional pocket, each one bristling with weapons that humanity had supposedly been centuries away from developing. What is this trickery?" Zuxkar's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. Elena smiled. "Oh, I'm sorry. Were we supposed to keep pretending to be harmless?" "My bad." She pressed a button on her chair, a real one this time. "Commander Chen, would you mind giving our friends a small demonstration?" One of the human ships fired a single quantum torpedo. The pirates watched in horror as it phased through their superior shields like they didn't exist, detonating in a precisely controlled burst that carved the squadron leader's name into the side of their flagship. That's impossible, Zuxkar shrieked. Your species hasn't even mastered basic shield harmonics. About that, Elena leaned forward, enjoying herself immensely. We might have exaggerated our technological inadequacies. Just a tiny bit. You see, we learned a long time ago that the galaxy tends to gang up on species that show their full capabilities too soon. So we decided to play dumb. She gestured to her fleet. Very, very dumb. The New Eden colony's defenses suddenly flared to life, quantum shields snapping into place as weapon systems that had been disguised as communication arrays powered up. The colonists themselves were emerging from buildings, their supposed agricultural tools transforming into advanced battle armor. Fun fact about humans, Elena continued conversationally, we got really good at hiding things during our early wars. Like, really good. Those orbital satellites you dismissed? Each one contains enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. That primitive sensor array? Actually a quantum AI hub that's been mapping every weakness in your ship since you arrived. The pirate fleet was now trying to retreat, their engines straining at maximum power. They weren't moving an inch. Oh, right, Elena snapped her fingers. We also figured out how to generate localized gravity wells. Sorry about that. Must be all that over-engineering we're famous for. She turned to her tactical officer. Would you kindly demonstrate our point defense capabilities? The ones we definitely didn't reverse engineer and improve upon after scanning the Council's ships during all those diplomatic meetings? Space lit up with precisely targeted quantum beams, each shot threading through the gaps between pirate ships to sketch a massive smiley face in the stars behind their fleet. Captain, her communications officer interrupted. We're receiving multiple hails from the Galactic Council. Put them on split screen, Elena said. I want to make sure everyone gets a good view of this teaching moment. The council members' faces appeared, their expressions ranging from shock to outrage to pure terror. Ambassador Krixtal looked like he was about to faint. Now then, Elena addressed both the pirates and the council. Let's discuss the true meaning of salvage rights. But first, she pressed another button, causing her ship's quantum core to pulse visibly. Would anyone like to see what else humanity has been hiding? We've got about 3 centuries of technological advances we've been dying to show off. The silence that followed was, in Eleanor's professional opinion, absolutely perfect. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Eleanor stood at the center of the floor, not in the lower tier where humanity had been relegated for decades, but right in the middle of the grand hall. The holograms of her fleet's demonstration played in the background, showing human ships dancing through space with impossible grace, while pirates flailed helplessly in their gravity nets. So, Elena said brightly, should we review all those technological trade restrictions now? I brought visual aids. She gestured, and her neural implant projected a timeline of every patronizing interaction the Council had ever had with humanity. Oh, look, here's footage of Ambassador Krixtal explaining basic spaceship construction to our engineers, the same engineers who designed our quantum fold drives. Krixtal's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. They hung limply as he watched a recording of himself patronizingly explaining concepts humanity had mastered 50 years ago. And this is my personal favorite, Elena continued, bringing up another hologram. The time the Council voted to deny us access to gravitational manipulation technology because, and I quote, humans might accidentally create a black hole. Meanwhile, she snapped her fingers, and a small section of space near the chamber window curved visibly before snapping back to normal. This is impossible, Vexthor finally managed to sputter. Your species was barely able to achieve light speed. Actually, Elena corrected, we broke the light speed barrier before we ever made first contact. Those slow ships you saw? Props, really expensive props, but worth every credit for the looks on your faces right now. A Drachnid representative surged to their feet. "You lied to the Council. This is an outrage." "No." Elena's smile turned sharp. "We protected ourselves from a council that has a documented history of subjugating or isolating any species that shows too much advancement too quickly." She pulled up another hologram, this one showing historical records. The Arxians, the Quantum Collective, the Silicon Consciousness, all declared threats and contained because they didn't hide their capabilities. "That was for the good of the galaxy," protested another council member. "Really? Because from where we're standing, it looks an awful lot like the Council has been systematically eliminating potential competition." Elena began to pace, her boots clicking against the crystal floor. "Did you really think humanity achieved spaceflight, survived multiple world wars, and unified our entire planet just to become the galaxy's resident comedy act?" She turned to face the Council, allowing her neural implants to glow visibly beneath her skin. "While you were laughing at our primitive computers, we were mapping your entire defense network. Every time you gave us a patronizing lecture about basic technology, we were scanning your supposedly superior ships. Those diplomatic meetings where you thought we were bumbling around with mechanical translators? We were actually running deep psychological analyses of every species' behavioral patterns." The chamber erupted in chaos as council members began shouting accusations and demands. Elena waited patiently until Vexthor finally restored order. "What do you want?" the council leader asked, their bioluminescent spots pulsing with anxiety. "Want?" Elena laughed. "Oh, we don't want anything new. We want exactly what we've always asked for: fair trade, mutual defense, and equal representation. The only difference is that now you know we can enforce those requests." She brought up one final hologram, a complete map of Council space, with humanity's hidden fleet positions marked in glowing dots. There were thousands of them. "We have ships stationed in dimensional pockets throughout Council space, quantum arrays hidden in asteroid belts, AI systems integrated into your own network so deeply you'll never find them all." Elena's voice turned serious. "We could have conquered the Council a dozen times over. Instead, we chose to play the fool because we genuinely believed in the possibility of peaceful cooperation." The silence stretched as the council members processed this information. Finally, Ambassador Krikstal spoke up, his voice barely a whisper. "All those times you asked us for help." "We were testing you," Elena confirmed. "Every single time humanity came to the Council with a problem, we were watching to see if you'd actually help, or just use it as another opportunity to prove your superiority. Care to guess how many times you chose to help?" No one answered. The number 0 hung unspoken in the air. "So," Elena clapped her hands together cheerfully, "should we discuss updating those trade agreements? And maybe take another look at the Council's policy on emerging civilizations while we're at it? I have some fascinating proposals about mutual technological exchange that don't involve extortion or resource theft." Vexthor slumped in their chair. "Do we have a choice?" "Of course you do," Elena said kindly. "You can choose to work with us as equals, or—" She let the holograms of her fleet flare brighter for a moment. "You can choose to find out what else humanity has been hiding. I suggest option 1. It involves a lot less paperwork." As the council chambers descended into frantic discussion, Elena allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Centuries of playing the fool had finally paid off, and humanity could at last stop pretending to be less than they were. Though she had to admit, watching the Council scramble to reorganize the entire galactic power structure was almost as fun as pretending not to understand artificial gravity. 3 months after what was now being called the Great Revelation, Elena sat in her office aboard the humble Origins, watching the parade of alien diplomats practically tripping over themselves to establish new trade agreements with humanity. The ship had kept its name, though now it was clearly meant as irony rather than deception. "Captain," her AI announced, "the Zixtarian trade delegation is here. Again. Third time this week. Let me guess, Elena sighed, leaning back in her chair. Properly this time, no more pretend discomfort. They've discovered another cache of ancient technological artifacts they're willing to trade exclusively to humanity. Actually, the AI sounded amused. This time they're offering unlimited access to their quantum engineering facilities. The same facilities they said would be too complex for our primitive minds to comprehend. Elena chuckled. Funny how quickly things change. She pulled up a holographic display showing the current state of galactic politics. The Council was still in chaos, desperately trying to reorganize itself into something more equitable after humanity's revelations had sparked demands for reform from other developing species. Turned out humans weren't the only ones who'd been hiding their capabilities. They were just the first to reveal them. A message notification blinked in her peripheral vision. Admiral Chen says Operation Hidden Dragon is proceeding as planned, the AI reported. The Drachnid Empire has agreed to stop their secret military build-up in exchange for human assistance with their solar engineering project. The same project they mocked us for failing at 50 years ago? Elena shook her head. Send them the specs for our Dyson Sphere prototypes, the real ones this time. Another notification popped up. Ambassador Krixtal requesting a personal meeting. Elena actually felt a bit sorry for him these days. The former council hardliner had been reassigned to cultural exchange duties, which mostly involved him sitting through detailed explanations of human technology while trying not to look like he was about to faint. Captain, Commander Chen's voice came through her neural link. You might want to see this. The Council's just passed the Equal Species Technology Exchange Act. Unanimously. Elena pulled up the feed from the Council chambers. The sight of formerly superior species voting to share their technological achievements without conditions would never get old. Oh, and one more thing, Chen added, obvious amusement in his voice. Remember those pirates we captured? They're requesting asylum. Apparently, they'd rather face human justice than return to Zixtarian space and explain how they got beaten by primitive technology. Approve it, Elena said. Send them to New Eden Colony. I hear they're looking for people to test their new quantum mining equipment, the stuff we supposedly couldn't comprehend 2 months ago. She stood and walked to her window, watching as ships from across the galaxy docked with human stations. Some were there for trade, others for diplomatic missions, and more than a few were probably trying to figure out what else humanity might be hiding. You know what the funny thing is? She mused to her AI. We're actually sharing more technology now than we would have if they'd just treated us as equals from the start. Humans do appreciate irony, the AI agreed. An alert flashed. The Galactic University was requesting human instructors for their advanced physics department. The same department that had rejected human scientists as too primitive to understand basic quantum mechanics less than a year ago. Should I prepare your usual response about humanity's limited understanding of advanced concepts? The AI asked, its tone dripping with sarcasm. No, Elena smiled. I think those days are behind us. Send them our actual curriculum, and include that paper on dimensional engineering that we've been sitting on for the last decade. As she watched the stars, Elena reflected on how differently things might have gone if humanity had revealed their true nature from the start. The galaxy wasn't ready for equality then, but being underestimated had given humanity time to guide it in the right direction. Captain, the AI interrupted her thoughts, the Council is requesting human representatives for their new Advanced Species Integration Committee. Tell them we'll be happy to attend, Elena said, and make sure our representatives bring along those primitive notepads and pencils, for old time's sake. After all, just because humanity had stopped pretending didn't mean they couldn't enjoy a good joke. Especially when the joke had helped reshape the entire galaxy.